So again, thank you for being here this morning. We have a packed agenda. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. Please keep your audio muted unless you are asking a question. Please feel free to use the chat option to make comments or ask questions. A SERAC staff person will make sure your questions are answered at the end of the session. And at the end of each session, you will be asked to complete the session survey using a QR code. So we do put a lot of stock into our evaluation process so that we can improve and offer topics that are of interest to our audience. So thank you. And we're going to go ahead and get started. So the first session is power of the positive. And for this portion, we're going to be looking at the power of the positive and how we can increase that in our life. I think most of us would agree that the world around us offers a lot of negatives. So how can we work to make a space to embrace the positive? I had a friend one time say, whether you think it's the glass is half full or whether it's half empty, it's still a half a glass of water. And so this is kind of the power of the positive, where the context of our circumstances, our situations have not changed. It is indeed a half a glass of water, but it's the ability to be able to see that it's enough water, that we at least have some water, versus no matter how much water is in the glass, we're never going to be happy. So we're going to look at our agenda. Hopefully, by the end of this, you will better understand the benefits of positive psychology, learn how to increase the positive in your own life, apply the positive psychology into your work and personal and professional, and learn the importance of setting goals, discovering pathways, and utilizing willpower to increase individual and collective hope. So we're going to do a little activity before we move any further. We are going to have 10 seconds to look at a picture, and you are going to be polled afterwards to see what you've noticed in this. So again, you're only going to have 10 seconds to look at this picture, and then you will have a poll. So here's the picture. All right, so let's start our poll, and just record what you think was easier to see, whether it was the negative factors or the positive factors, or whether they were about the same. All right. Got a few more people. We'll give them just another second to answer. Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and stop the poll and show you the results. So we do see that negative outweighed the positive, and then some of you said that it was about the same. So thank you for doing that. It is easier in some ways to see the negative, right? It was easier to see that the baby was laying next to the electrical outlet. There was a cord on the floor. There's chemicals open in the kitchen. There's a TV that's not really secured. Somebody could jump, could knock into it. There's the cigarette burning in the ashtray on the table. But then there are some positive things. We see that there is food present. We see that there are animals, which could be a form of support. We see that there's what appears to be an adult reading a book. So there's literacy present. We see that there's a religious picture on the wall, so they might be a family of faith. So, but it is easier at times to notice the negative. And I think part of that is because that's part of our training, right? We want to make sure that we are protecting people. So today we're going to look at positive psychology. So hopefully you signed up for this course to learn more about the power of the positive and for the need of hope. And for anyone on a journey to self-improvement, positive psychology is a powerful tool. It helps you to identify and harness strength, overcome challenges, and achieve personal and professional goals. It's not just about fixing what's broken, it's also about building what's already strong, working on your strengths. But focusing on the positive can be difficult, especially when life seems to be hard. But working on searching for the good can make all the difference in not only navigating, but actually surviving and thriving through challenges. So, why is it so difficult to see the good? Well, I love this slide: Velcro for the bad experiences and Teflon for the good. And you can see those ones that we kind of hold on to a little bit more tightly: the bad memories, the insecurities, the embarrassment, the shame, the arguments, where some of those other things are forgotten pretty easily: the compliments, the successes, the pride, the good memories and accomplishments. So, as humans, we tend to remember traumatic experiences better than positive ones. We recall insults better than praise. We react more strongly to negative stimuli. We think about negative things more frequently than positive things. For example, you might be having a great day at work when a coworker makes an offhand comment that you find irritating. You then find yourself stewing over his words for the rest of the workday. And when you get home from work and somebody says, "How was your day?" Even though it was overall quite good, you say that it was terrible because that one negative incident completely overshadowed the rest of the day. This bias toward the negative leads you to pay much more attention to the bad things that happen, making them seem much more important than they really are. You basically let a 2-minute interaction ruin a 24-hour day. Then you miss out on all the positive things that have happened before and afterward. You can't even fall asleep because you're replaying the scene and thinking, at least I do, if this ever happens again, this is what I'm going to say. We might think that we're overthinkers, but are we overthinking the good things or just the bad things? How many of us lay there at night thinking, man, I just can't get that glorious sunset out of my mind. Wow, seeing that hummingbird at the hummingbird feeder was just the most magical thing. Or what a great meal that my husband made for me tonight. Nope. We will lay there and we'll think about all the things we didn't get done, all the things we need to still get done. We think about the laundry, the unpaid bill, the yard work, the problem at our child's school, and of course, the bad interaction with the coworker. But is it really a big deal if I dwell on the negative? Well, there are lots of positives to the benefits of positive psychology. So, we know that positive psychology can improve mental health by promoting positive emotions such as joy and gratitude and love. People who practice positive psychology experience less stress, anxiety, depression than those who don't. People can also learn to manage negative emotions and cope with stress more effectively.
No, no, yo estoy en la oficina.
Then
Oh, because I'm trying to go in
it also has the ability to help us bounce back from adversity. And positive psychology can help develop that by teaching us to focus on our strengths and positive experiences and develop a more optimistic outlook and learn to see challenges as opportunities for growth. It can also improve our physical health by reducing stress and promoting healthy behaviors. Studies show that people with positive psychology are more likely to exercise regularly, eat healthier, get enough sleep, and reduce the risk of chronic diseases such as heart disease and diabetes. It also improves relationships by promoting positive communication and empathy. By focusing on positive, people can learn to communicate more effectively and develop stronger, more meaningful relationships and develop empathy. By focusing also on positive psychology, we can learn how to cultivate happiness in our lives. Studies show that people who practice positive psychology are happier, more satisfied, and more resilient in the face of adversity. The benefits are numerous and have significant impact on mental and physical health, relationships, and overall well-being. So how do we become more positive people, and how do we increase the positivity of those
Compro por
around
la
us?
tarde.
Well, there have been five elements to positive psychology that have been identified that contribute to well-being. It's called the PERMA model, is widely recognized and influential in positive psychology and helps define well-being in greater depth. Well-being is broader than happiness in that while happiness is characterized by joy, satisfaction, and contentment, well-being includes factors like physical health, social connections, and a sense of meaning and purpose. So they've broken it up into something called PERMA. The first one is positive emotions, which can boost our overall happiness and resilience by activating reward pathways in the brain, leading to reduced stress hormones and improved immune function. The E for PERMA stands for engagement, and it helps us to lose track of time, to really be present in the moment. This is referred to as flow, where individuals are fully immersed and absorbed in the task. They're living in the present. And then we have relationships, which connect us deeply with others, enrich our lives with love and support. M is for meaning, which drives us to contribute to something bigger than ourselves. It fosters a sense of belonging and can reduce feelings of isolation and offer a sense of legacy and immortality. By impacting the world in a positive way, individuals can leave a lasting mark beyond their own lifespan. And then achievement or accomplishment satisfies our need to grow by providing a sense of purpose, mastery, and self-worth. It allows individuals to move beyond basic needs and engage in meaningful activities, leading to a personal development and a sense of accomplishment. So we're going to break these down and look at these in a little bit more depth. So gratitude is one of those feelings that was mentioned as a positive emotion, and gratitude is good for your psychological well-being, even your physical health. But the truth is that some people have more grateful dispositions than others. For some of us, gratitude doesn't come as easily. Gratitude interventions can have positive benefits for people in terms of their well-being, happiness, life satisfaction, grateful mood, grateful disposition, and positive effect. And they can result in decreases in depressive symptoms. And studies show that the more gratitude we show, the more grateful we actually become. The more we start to notice those big and small things that have gone well, the more we start to focus on those good and positive things, and the less we see the negative. So whether you're, remember I mentioned at the very beginning, it doesn't have to do with context or circumstance. It has to do with the way that we are viewing that. And the more positive we become, the more we start to look for the positive, the more grateful we start to become. Then those little negative things that crop up, that interaction with the coworker, we will be able to look at it in a good perspective instead of letting it take over our entire day. So when you're driving to work in the morning, do you focus on the negative things? Are you focusing on the traffic, the potholes, the inconsiderate drivers, the construction? Or are you able to listen to some music, really enjoy your quiet morning, even if traffic is still bad, even if there's still construction? Are you able to notice the sunshine, the child with the bright pink backpack that's hugging her daddy before she gets on the school bus? All of these things can help us to have a more grateful attitude, an attitude of gratitude. So there are some ways that we can practice becoming more grateful. There's letters that we can write, thank you notes to people expressing how grateful we are for something that they've done for us or just who they are for us in our lives. Journaling, writing down, starting your morning, every morning, writing 3 to 5 things that you're happy for. And they can be things as simple as a hot cup of coffee, getting out of bed, whatever, sometimes we're just not in a space to be able to see or experience a lot of really big things. But if we start to focus on those little things, some people use a gratitude rock or something that's a visual so that every time they look at that on their desk or they feel it in their pocket, it gives them a moment to reflect on something that they are grateful for. You could take a gratitude walk and just walk around and see what you can notice as you're on your walk. A gratitude jar, which allows us to put pieces of paper in and things that we're grateful for. And then when we're having a really hard day and we just don't see any good, to pull those things out. And then, of course, gratitude meditation, where we're really just taking a few minutes each day to be quiet, turn off all the distractions, and really meditate on how fortunate we are. We have a roof over our head, we have food in our stomach, or, we have a job, whatever it might be, and just really give some gratitude to what your experience is. So this next slide has a video on it, and this is part 2 of a video series on saying thank you. The first part showed how they pulled people into a room and they asked them to write letters to the person that impacted them most in their life so that they could express their gratitude. Then after they were finished writing a letter, they had to call the person and read the letter to them and express their gratitude. At the end of part 1, they asked people to send in videos of them doing the same exercise. So we're just going to watch this quick video.
After our first experiment on gratitude, we asked you guys for video responses, and you guys delivered. So take a look at what we did with it. Sit back, relax, and enjoy.
I literally just watched the piece you did on happiness.
Yeah, hello.
Hey, Grandpa.
Hey, Caleb, how you doing, buddy?
I was crying while I was watching it.
So today in class, I had my students write a letter of the person that they were influenced by the most, and they were supposed to read it to that person. And I did the same thing, so I'm going to read you the letter, okay?
Well, I wanted to read you something, okay?
Alright, appreciate it.
Are you ready?
I'm not going to cry.
Mom, I would like you to know that out of almost everyone I know, you have and continue to be the person who has influenced me the most. One of my first memories is resting my head on your belly and wanting to know why it was so big and yet so hard. I remember you saying, your baby brother is in there. I also remember thinking, she must love us a lot to let us stretch out her belly like that.
My grandpa is one of the most influential people in my life.
Mom, your name is Evelyn Gillum, who is destined to be with me, Jasmine Gillum, 22 years and some months ago. You weren't expecting this message today, but I wanted you to know that I appreciate all you have done for me.
I was calling to let you know how influential you have been in my life and how grateful I am to be so lucky to call you my grandpa.
Had it not been for you reading to me every night, I doubt I would have loved to read so much.
I may be lost at this age, but I'm so glad I have you as my mother to be my guide here on earth.
He has always supported me in what I do, and he loves me unconditionally.
You have touched my soul in ways you couldn't imagine. I'm not crying. I am. Okay.
Had it not been for dancing around the living room to jock jams, I doubt I ever would have been able to have fun looking like an idiot.
I know how much you've been through the past couple of years with Susie Q and Grandma. But you have been the rock that held the family together and the ray of light through the clouds.
And as a father figure to me and my two brothers, I thank God that he has blessed me with such an amazing grandpa.
But most importantly, had it not been for your tearful plea a year and a half ago, I know I would have never seen the dire need for me to seek healing. Without you, I would have continued on, thinking I was perfectly healthy while my disease continued to wrap its fingers around my life.
Who has inspired me to do what is right and to never lose one's integrity.
You are a rock. You are a true picture of grace, mercy, and love.
You're such a stand-up pops and one of the most inspiring human beings I have ever met. I love you to the moon and back, and I'm so grateful to have you in my life.
I love you and I commend you for being the woman you are, the person you continue to grow into each day.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
over and out.
Oh my gosh, that is the best tribute that anyone can ever give anyone. And you just made my day. You made my 91 years worth the living.
Hello.
I'm here.
Oh.
So thank you, Grandpa, for being my grandpa and loving me. I love you.
Oh my goodness. What a wonderful thing you said there.
Thank you.
Well, I got tears in my eyes, buddy.
I do too.
I love you.
I love you too. Oh, that's great.
I gotta.
Buddy, thanks a lot. Thanks for calling, and I really love you. I love you, like you say, unconditionally, and I hope you love me the same way.
I do, Grandpa.
I was watching this video on Soul Pancake, and these people wrote a letter about who's influenced them the most. And I was like, my mom is that person. And they said, make a video and upload it. And so that's what I'm doing.
That's so sweet.
Oh, well, thanks again, guys, for your submissions, your support. And we want you to know to stay tuned, because in 2 weeks, we're going to be bringing you the final 2 episodes of this season of The Science of Happiness and a special announcement.
All right. So if you're a little teary-eyed like I am every time I've watched that video, just a reminder to show gratitude to those who have impacted you, right? So often we wait until we're giving a eulogy or speaking at a funeral, and we should not wait. Time is not guaranteed. So let that be a motivator to you to reach out to someone who has impacted you and share that with them. What the study found is that people who shared their gratitude for someone in their life that had made an impact increased their happiness by almost 20%. And no telling how much they increased the happiness of the person who was hearing those words. So that's part of the gratitude. So the E for PERMA, back to PERMA again. So we had positive emotions, and we have engagement is the E. So engagement is basically just living in the present. It's a choice to engage in life. Perhaps it's a decision to reach others, or it's a quick comment to somebody that's walking by, like, hey, I love your blouse, or a cool tie. You give acknowledgement that you are present in the moment. But so often we are overwhelmed by the automatic assembly line of life, and often the things that we can engage in are the first things to get dumped from the lineup. So perhaps you can relate to some of these statements. I used to love, but I don't have time anymore. I remember loving to do that when I was younger. I can't remember why I stopped. There just never seems to be enough time in the day for anything other than work. I wish I had more time it would be so great to be able to. These are all statements that literally speak the voice of yearning to engage and reconnect to joy and love and enjoyment and passion. Part of the longevity of engagement is the reality of life and how we manage it. So when we're talking about engagement, we need to remember that it's not necessarily defined by one act, but rather that the act of being attentive to the action of being engaged, whereby there is participation and involvement. So just remembering that we are awake, we are present, we are devoting attention, we're removing distractions, we are interacting purposely. The reason I bring this up is, so often we are caught up in the hustle and bustle of life, and it whirls around us, and we don't see the simple daily experiences as opportunities for engagement, right? We get caught up in the ordinary, and we often think that we should only be engaged, or we are only engaged when something extraordinary happens. But there is extraordinary in all of our ordinary moments if we will just simply look for it. We don't have to plan to be engaged. We can just be open and willing to initiate, create, and savor experiences that fuel our well-being. So we can do this by participating in activities that we really love, where we lose all track of time when we do them, whether that's an activity or reading a book or being with a certain person. We can practice living in the moment, even in our daily activities or mundane tasks. We can spend time in nature, watching, listening, observing what happens around us. And then the fourth one is really important, to be able to identify and learn about our strengths and do things that we excel at. So often we focus on that one area that we really struggle with instead of really promoting and encouraging those positive strengths that we have and sharing them with others. So take some time to engage today, whether that is, whether that's just being present, putting your phone aside, standing outside for a minute, enjoying the sunshine, whatever that looks like. But really try to be more present and set some time aside to be able to do that. The R for PERMA is about relationships, and relationships encompass all the various interactions individuals have with partners, friends, family members, colleagues, bosses, our work environment, and our community at large. So relationships refer to being supported, feeling loved, valued. Relationships are included in the model based on the idea that humans are inherently social creatures. And there's evidence of this everywhere, but as we become older, social connections become particularly important. The social environment has been found to play a crucial role in preventing cognitive decline, and it shows that strong social networks contribute to better physical health among older adults. Many people have a goal of improving relationships with those that they are closest to. Research has demonstrated that sharing good news or celebrating success fosters strong bonds and better relationships. Additionally, responding enthusiastically to others, particularly in close or intimate relationships, increases intimacy, well-being, and satisfaction. Unfortunately, I have found in my life that there are lots of people who are willing to commiserate with me. I've had people that have been there for me in tough times, but not as many people are there in the good celebratory things, right? I don't know if it's envy or jealousy or maybe just their own set of circumstances, but are we able to celebrate with our friend who got the promotion at work? Are we able to celebrate someone losing 10 pounds, even though we've been dieting for 6 months and the scale has not moved, right? Like, are we fostering relationships through positivity? Are we trying to reduce our own negativity when we're around people so that people want to be around us? If you have a friendship that the person is constantly negative, you can see how exhausting it is. They constantly use words like I can't do this. I don't think that will work. I won't be able to do this. Or they finish something that sounds almost positive with the word but. I talked to my grandson, but it was only for 30 minutes. I went to my favorite restaurant, but they didn't have what I wanted on the menu. So, to make sure, obviously, we can't change other people's behavior, but are we modeling positivity in our relationships? Are we being that source for people that know that they can show up and give us a phone call, and we will be there for them with a positive attitude, with an attitude of gratitude? So there was a Harvard study done, a longitudinal study of 268 Harvard sophomores that started in 1938, and it followed all of them until the end of each participant's life. They found through that study that close relationships, more than money or fame or what keep people happy throughout their lives, protect people from life's discontents. It helps to delay mental and physical decline, and they are better predictors of long, happy lives rather than social class, IQ, or even genes. So if we think about how much time we spend on money focused, and we all have to work, unfortunately, we all have to work. But, we can get so caught up in being focused on that money aspect that we forget about our relationships. And so just keeping that in mind, that relationships play a huge role in having a positive psychology. Another study that followed 2,500 people found that being more pro-social, engaged in meaningful, authentic relationships, showing kindness and generosity in the world, and being part of a supportive community is the most promising route to sustainability, sustainability, increasing our well-being. And I just want to point out that, so often I have a few negative people that are in my life. And so often there's this burden that they put on everyone else to make them happy, right? And so I love this finding on here is showing that our happiness comes from giving, not from receiving. Of course, we do experience happiness with receiving, but if we are more bent towards that negative side, we can change our outlook by simply being kind and showing generosity to the people in our community, in our families, and in the world that can foster positive psychology. So there are some things that we can do to help foster more relationships. We can join a class or a group that interests you. We can ask questions of the people that we don't know well to find out more about them, striking up those conversations with coworkers or strangers in the grocery store. So much of this was so important during the years of COVID restrictions and face mask wearing and isolation, right? People were feeling very lonely. Relationships were very hard to come by, very hard to foster in ways that we had been accustomed to. And so, how can we, if we find ourselves being a little isolated, feeling a little lonely, how can we step out of that to foster more relationships? Creating friendships with people you are acquainted with, right? There's this people that we've met, people that we've become acquainted with, people that we are friends with, to actually becoming very close friends, people that we would depend on in a time of crisis or want to celebrate with during a time of something fabulous going on. And then getting in touch with people that you have not spoken to or connected with in a while. We're going to do a little exercise here. I want you to pull out your cell phone. I know I've talked a lot about setting the cell phone aside and being distracted, but I want you to take your cell phone and I want you to scroll through your text messages and find something that was from a long time ago, a friend that you haven't reached out to, and just very quickly send them a text saying, hey, thinking about you, hope all is well, whatever sounds appropriate for you and the context of that relationship. But let's just take a minute and let someone know that we are thinking about them, even though we haven't spoken with them in a while. So I'll give you a minute to do that. And I'm going to do the same thing. Give you another 30 seconds. Maybe you want to text more than one person. So relationships are so important. We need to do the best that we can to foster the ones that we have and work on helping those around us that have a hard time connecting. How can we be that bridge for them to get them more connected so they don't feel lonely, so they don't feel isolated? All right. We're going to go ahead and move on to the M in PERMA. So we have covered positive emotions. We have talked about engagement. we have talked about relationships, and now we're going to talk about meaning. So Viktor Frankl was an Austrian physicist who practiced medicine prior to World War II. And then he was taken into a concentration camp. He ended up losing all of his family through that horrific event. And so before World War II, he was already doing a lot of studies on meaning. What is the meaning of life? So we had a chance to practice that in the most horrific, horrible way that anyone could ever imagine, and got to put to practice what he had been, was able to apply what he had been studying and researching for years prior. So he made it his mission when he entered into this concentration camp to really focus on what is my meaning today? What is my meaning today? Because he knew that if he lost meaning, he would lose the will to live. So one of his quotes is, "The question isn't whether life has meaning, but rather what meaning we choose to create in our circumstances." Some of us probably on this call have experienced loss, devastating events, trauma, and unfortunately, there's a lot of those things are out of our control, right? We can't control a lot of these horrible things that happen. But what Viktor is saying in this is that we can choose to create what kind of meaning that we draw out of those circumstances. I just want to share a real quick story about a friend of mine, Diane. She was one of the most positive people I ever knew in my life. She passed away in a few years ago, but I was there one day for her with lunch, and her husband, who was also an absolute joy to be around, came in, and he had brought her a very small container of diced purple onions. And he said to her, "I was thinking about you when I was at the store, and I saw these, and I knew you would love them, and I wanted to bring them home to you." And she responded with such kindness. She said, "Oh my gosh, these are wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for thinking of me. I'm going to put these in my tuna salad." And he said, "Why would you put those in tuna salad?" And she said, "Well, they're diced purple onions." He said, "Oh my God, I thought they were crushed purple peppermint candies." But here's just a simple example of her taking a set of circumstances that, if I'm being honest, I would have said to my husband, like, "Why in the world are you buying me purple onions? What am I supposed to do with these? Do you know how quickly these go bad?" But she was able to see the positive in that he thought of her while he was at the store. He made the effort to purchase something for her. He did it with her in mind, with her joy and in mind. And she took those gifts and she was able to say, "I'm going to take all those good things that you just showed me over a container of purple onions, and I'm going to make tuna salad out of it," right? Like when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. When life gives you purple onions, make tuna salad. But that story has just always stuck with me and really kind of shaped what I try to see moving forward. So just a few more things. So some of the things that Viktor Frankl found is, that when things get very tough, we can ask ourselves, what is the point? What is the point of trying anymore? Like, life just can't possibly get any more worse. But when we have meaning and purpose in life, it's the glue that can hold us together, and it allows us to rise above the most harrowing of situations. But we live in a culture where we've fallen for the appearance without substance. We've chosen glitzy Instagram filter version of toughness, ones that's staged and distorted and dependent on choosing to live in fantasy instead of embracing reality. We need to be able to acknowledge struggles and failures and doubts and insecurities. Real toughness and increasing that positive psychology is recognizing that we have meaning and being able to really recognize that and what can we do in that. So there were some things that Victor suggested that we work on in finding meaning. One is creating an artistic pursuit or a labor of love. What are we doing that leaves something behind at the end of the day? What can we do for that? Another thing he said was experiencing nature or love or art or anything that creates the sensation of awe and expanding one's perspective of the world. You know, I think we've lost our sense of wonder. We've lost our sense of being wowed by something. And there are so many beautiful things in our world that we can be wowed by. And nature is one of those things. And then he also talks about suffering, and I touched on that a little bit earlier, but true suffering is an authentic fate, is an achievement, and indeed is the highest possible achievement. These are his words. Suffering wasn't meant to be sought out, but if we find ourselves there, meaning can be extracted. Suffering strips us of our vanities and allows us an opportunity to respond. Suffering wasn't just a way to develop meaning, but meaning was a way to get through suffering. And then one more thing is time. Just a quick reminder that time is limited. While money and resources can be replenished mostly, we all have 24 hours in a day. We will never, ever get that time back. No matter how much we try, we can't buy it, we can't earn it. 24 hours a day is all we get, and tomorrow is not guaranteed. In a recent nationwide poll, nearly half of Americans reported that they do not have enough time to do what they want to do. And 2/3 state that they always or sometimes feel rushed. And half of the people surveyed said that they almost never feel that they have enough time on their, or they almost never feel that they have time on their hands. So making sure that we are spending our time wisely because we cannot get it back. The A in PERMA is for accomplishment or achievement. This is, you know, working towards a sense of accomplishment. This doesn't have to be something huge. It can be something minimal, you know, an accomplishment to get out of bed without complaining, to drink our coffee on our way to work without spilling it on our shirt. We recognize through accomplishment that we have had a sense of perseverance, right? Because in order to get to any accomplishment, we have to be able to persevere to get through that. So there are two key things when it comes to perseverance. One is, accomplishment is don't compare yourself to others. We can get caught up in what other people are setting for goals, what other people are accomplishing. That does not help in our own positive psychology. We're going to talk about goals, setting goals in just a moment, but not comparing yourself to someone else can make all the difference. We are each on our own journey. We're at different starting points. We're at different abilities to learn and achieve. I will never, ever, ever be able to lift the amount of weight that my son lifts in the gym, but I don't have to set that as a goal, right? I can set walking 2 miles a day as a goal. So achievements and accomplishments are what we create for ourselves through attempting, engaging, and trying something apart from what we already know what to do. And this includes how we recognize what we have done by not downplaying the achievement in comparison to others. And then one other important note when it comes to achievement is it's called savoring. And it's defined as the ability to notice and appreciate experiences, events, and feelings, simply resting in a positive experience. There are many times that we experience good or memorable events, but we lack the consideration to lock them in. Remember, we talked about the Velcro mind holding on to the negative and the Teflon mind quickly letting go of the positive. But one way that we can hold on to the positive a little bit more is to savor the moment. And I love this graphic. So if we are in a present moment, it looks one way, but we are in the present when we're distracted, it looks another way. The present moment when we're rushing, you can see that on the screen. And then the present moment when we savor it, it's like time expands, right? We have this moment that we're able to savor. And I just one quick thing. If you have ever watched a small child try to get a parent's attention who is on the phone, and the child is so proud of whatever it is that they've done, and they say, look at what I made or what I drew or the Lego set, and the parent barely looks up from their phone. They say, uh-huh, and they go back to their phone. Not only have you diminished your own present moment by not celebrating and recognizing and being fully present in that, but you've also diminished that present moment for that small child. And we do that with other people as well. So just really trying to be present in the moment and not comparing ourselves to others will help us to see those accomplishments as we move forward. We have another small little video that kind of drives this point home. You've probably seen it. It's been around for a while.
Over. If you make your bed every morning, you will have accomplished the first task of the day. It will give you a small sense of pride, and it will encourage you to do another task, and another, and another. And by the end of the day, that one task completed will have turned into many tasks completed. Making your bed will also reinforce the fact that the little things in life matter. If you can't do the little things right, you'll never be able to do the big things right. And if by chance you have a miserable day, you will come home to a bed that is made, that you made. And a made bed gives you encouragement that tomorrow will be better. So if you want to change the world, start off by making your bed.
Love that video. And I just love how small that accomplishment is, right? Just as something as simple as making your bed starts your day off in the right mindset. So we have a role to play. We're wrapping up. We're almost done. Thank you for sticking with me. We need to believe that our future can be brighter and better than our past, and that we actually have a role to play in making it better. So there are a few things that we can do. There are goals and pathways and willpower to do it. So when it comes to goals, we all need to have something planned. Hope is different than wishful thinking, right? If we wish for something to happen, we really don't have any control over it. But hope is an important part of positive psychology, and hope is about intention. People who are hopeless are unable to set goals. People who are hopeful are able to see the future, even if it's just a future for a few hours ahead of them, right? We're able to set some goals. So it's about intention. It's about helping us get through the day. It can be short term, like getting to work on the time. It can be long term, like getting a college degree. It can be, crisis oriented, like staying alive. It could be mundane, like eating a healthy breakfast every morning. It can be domain oriented, like I'm going to work on my relationship or my spirituality. And then we also have to have goals that excite us, right? That motivate us to action. Our goals should connect with what we believe in. And so let me just explain that a little bit more. We act based on what we believe, not what we know. And so for an example, we know that too much sugar is not good for us, but we believe that that second cookie is going to make us happy. And so we eat it. We know that we should be saving money, but we believe that we have plenty of time to do it later. People know they shouldn't drink and drive, but they believe they are fine. So how do we connect our internal intrinsic goals with what we believe? We need to have authentic goals that are true to ourselves and based on what we believe, not just what we know. So if we think about goals, they're the destination. They're where we want to get to. The pathways are the roads that we take in order to get there. They're the things that help chart that journey. So if I say, I want to plan a 40th wedding anniversary to Alaska, and somebody says, oh, how are you getting there? How expensive is it? Where are you going to stay? And I say, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I have no pathways. I may have hope. I may have a goal, but I have no pathway to get there. So making sure that we are creating lists, I want to lose 10 pounds. What is my pathway? I'm going to drink more water. I'm going to eat more salad, whatever it is. We need to have a pathway. Then the last part of that is the willpower. Gandhi says that strength does not come from physical capacity. It comes from our will. And willpower is the motivational aspect of hope. So we have a goal, we have a pathway, we have it charted out of how we're going to get there, but willpower is the engine that drives us there. We may have a lot of wonderful ideas. You'll hear a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm going to start a business, and I've worked out an org chart, and I've got my, my business plan laid out." Well, what have you done with it? Well, nothing. I haven't called the bank yet. I haven't done this. They have no willpower. You can have people who have a lot of great willpower, but they don't have any idea how to get to where they need to go. So it's important to have all three of those, be able to set a goal, be able to have the pathway to know how to reach that goal, and then to have the willpower to get through to what you want to accomplish. And we can help with our willpower by surrounding ourselves with positive people, that we can, do the educational piece, find out what we really need to do, and then having those mentors and close friends and cheerleaders that will spur us on to help us to pursue our goal. So goals are the destination, the pathway is the roadmap, and the willpower is the minivan that we are driving in. So I think we have time for this last little video. Let me see how long this is. Yeah, let's watch this.
Everybody has their thing. And for me, it was football. I was a semi-pro player with a championship already under my belt. And I was playing in a game and made a tackle I've made 100 times before. I go down, he goes down, he gets up, and I can't move. His teammates are yelling at me, "Emeka, get up, get up." And I am trying, but I just can't do it. And the trainers would run out, and I hear them yelling back and forth, "I think it's C5, I think it's C6. And at that time, I had no idea what that meant. Eventually, an ambulance would arrive, and they get me on a stretcher, and as they're wheeling me off the field, all I wanted to do was wave, put a thumb up, let the crowd know that I was going to be okay. And I am trying, but I just can't do it. I get to the hospital where I find out C5, C6 was the level in which I had just broken my neck. I spent 9 hours in surgery, and after that they told me that I had just suffered a spinal cord injury and I was paralyzed from my chest down. I can tell you in that moment, I had no idea what those words meant for my life. Over the next 3 months, I approached rehabilitation just like I approached football. Just do the work and get the results. I believed that I was simply putting my old life on the shelf and I'd be able to pick it back up once I got done with my rehab. And then one day a doctor comes in and tells me that they've done everything that they can do for me and that they're drawing up my discharge papers. And it just didn't make sense to me because I was supposed to walk out of this hospital, not be wheeled out of it. After I left the hospital, despair began to settle in because I was completely isolated from other people. Because at least in the hospital, I had a team of people that were giving me tasks and goals and work to do on a day-to-day. But now, I was alone in my house, just sitting in my darkness. I felt like I was watching everyone around me live their lives while I was losing mine. It was the darkest time of my entire life. I didn't know what my future was supposed to be. Luckily, I had a friend named Paul who would come over and hang out with me and watch Monday Night Football just to spend time. He worked with youth at a church in Tulsa, and one day he invited me to come along. And so I showed up. But I was uncomfortable because I felt like I had nothing to offer the kids. But after one conversation with a kid and just sharing some of my experiences, I realized that there was something to give. I realized how much I enjoyed building relationships with them and helping them deal with the challenges that they were facing. And so I kept going back. As I shared my story with them, the kids saw a story of triumph, even though I was still looking at the tragedy. Soon, I started to believe that my future could be better because the kids believed it. So in the midst of my helping them, they helped me imagine the future for myself. One of the students said that they thought that I would be a good counselor, and another encouraged me to maybe become a speaker. And as I watched the kids go off to college, I started imagining going back to college and finishing up for myself. And I did. Today, I hold a master's degree. I'm a licensed counselor and a speaker, and an advocate for youth. I'm a guy who found himself in a hopeless situation and borrowed hope from others until I could find it for myself. And now, I'm in a position to lend hope to others until they can find it for themselves. My name is Emeka Naka, and hope is rising in Oklahoma.
I love that story. We are done. Just a reminder that positivity does not change the contents of your mind, but it widens the possibilities of what you can see. So thank you for being here for this session. We are getting ready to start our next session on gambling. And so I would love if you would take your phone out and fill out that survey real quick. We really depend on our evaluations to make sure that we are doing the best that we can. There's also a tab in there if there's anything that you would like us to present on. We'd love to hear your ideas. But thank you so much. I didn't leave a lot of time for questions, but is there anything that came up in the chat that I need to address? I know I have other SERAC members here that we're monitoring